Welcome to Step Up English channel. And consider this for a moment.
Okay, I'm listening.
You will likely spend roughly 26 years of your life sleeping.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Right. And another 10 to 12 years just working. But the thing is, the English words we use to describe these massive, defining chunks of time are, surprisingly few.
It really is a profound way to look at something so ordinary, you know?
Yeah. We spend decades repeating the exact same actions every single day, yet we rarely stop to actually think about the vocabulary we use to build that reality.
Exactly. I mean, we tend to take our daily routines entirely for granted. But linguistically speaking, the words you use to describe your morning, your workday, and your evening, they are the absolute foundation of your ability to communicate.
So true.
If you cannot explain how you live your day, you cannot really explain who you are.
And that is exactly the mission for today's deep dives. We're taking the source material, which covers the complete timeline of a typical day, and we are going to extract the essential English verbs and vocabulary you need.
But we aren't just going to give you like a boring list of words to memorize.
No, definitely not. We are going to look at the mechanics of the language.
Mm.
We want to show you how these words function, why English uses certain strange phrases, and how you can use these building blocks to confidently explain your lifestyle to anyone.
Because while everyone's life is entirely unique, the foundational vocabulary we use to talk about our habits, our chores, and our downtime is completely universal.
Yeah, whether you live in a bustling metropolis or, a quiet village, the way you structure the story of your day relies on the exact same linguistic architecture.
It really does.
So let's start with the very first challenge of the day, transitioning from the dream world to reality.
Ah, yes, the morning struggle.
Right. The sources highlight an immediate crucial distinction in English between the phrase wake up and the phrase get up. On the surface, they sound like the exact same thing.
They do, but they actually describe two entirely different states of being. And this is where we really see the precision of English phrasal verbs.
So break that down for us.
Well, wake up is purely biological. It is that split second where you transition from being asleep to being awake. Your eyes open, your brain turns on.
Right, you're conscious.
Exactly. But get up is the physical, mechanical act of actually leaving the bed. You are moving your body from a horizontal position to a vertical one.
And the space between waking up and getting up is where a lot of modern life happens.
So true.
Because let's be honest, those two things rarely happen at the exact same time anymore.
No, almost never. Most people hit the snooze button on their alarm clock.
Guilty as charged.
Right. They stay in bed to check the news, scroll through social media, or just stare at the ceiling for a bit.
Build in that buffer time.
We do. And what is really interesting about the English particles up, down, or out when they're attached to verbs is that they often indicate the completion of an action or like a change of state.
Okay, so adding up makes it final.
Yeah, so getting up isn't just about the physical direction of rising. It is about finalizing the morning transition. You are officially starting the day.
Which takes us straight to the bathroom.
The next hurdle.
Right, and the vocabulary here is highly standardized. You might use the washroom or go to the bathroom, and the actions are pretty universal. Brush my teeth, wash my face.
And the sources specifically note that you might wash your face with cold water to really jolt yourself awake, or use warm water if you prefer a gentler start.
I'm definitely a cold water person. Got to wake the brain up.
Oh, absolutely. But notice how physical all these verbs are. Brushing, washing.
Yeah, very direct.
But then we hit a phrase that often confuses people learning the language, which is getting ready.
Ah, yes.
When we talk about putting clothes on, we rarely actually say, I am putting on my clothes. The far more common phrase is, I need to get dressed.
I've always found that interesting. Get dressed encompasses the entire psychological and physical process of choosing an outfit and putting it on.
It's a whole event.
Yeah, whether that is a rigid work uniform or just comfortable jeans and a t-shirt,
Yep.
It is like a transformation.
It really is. And nestled in that getting ready routine is another phrase that trips people up.
Oh,
Yeah, you might put on deodorant. But when it comes to bathing, English does something very peculiar. We say, take a shower.
wait, okay, I have to ask about this. If I'm not physically unbolting the shower from the wall, picking it up and carrying it away, why on earth do we say we take a shower? It implies acquisition, like I'm stealing it.
It's such a great linguistic quirk to examine. In English, the word take often functions as what linguists call a dilexical verb.
The dilexical verb.
Yeah, that is just a fancy way of saying the verb itself has been emptied of its normal meaning.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't mean grab.
Right. In phrases like take a shower or take a break or take a look, the verb take doesn't mean to grab or carry at all.
So what does it do?
It simply acts as a vehicle to turn the noun, the shower, the break, the look into an action. It is a fixed block of words.
So you just have to memorize it together.
Exactly. You cannot say do a shower or make a shower. It just sounds wrong to a native speaker.
It's just an action block you have to accept. Okay, that makes total sense. So we are awake, we are up, we've taken our shower, and we are dressed.
Next up is the kitchen.
Yes, and the vocabulary shifts based on how much effort you are willing to exert, right? You can make breakfast, which implies a whole creative process. You are frying eggs, making toast, pouring coffee.
Contrast that with having a light breakfast. If you just grab a smoothie, some oatmeal, or yogurt, you aren't really making it in the same sense.
You're just kind of assembling it.
Right. And an increasingly common piece of morning vocabulary is the verb to hydrate.
Oh, yeah, very trendy right now.
It is. Before eating, a lot of people drink a large glass of water or like herbal tea to hydrate their bodies after 8 hours of sleep.
Hydration secured, breakfast consumed. We are now at the final sequence of the morning routine, the departure.
The rush out the door.
Yes, and it is a very specific order of operations. You start by grabbing your things.
Which is a highly colloquial but universally understood way to describe collecting your keys, phone, wallet, and backpack.
It implies a swift, almost rushed motion, doesn't it?
Definitely. You aren't carefully organizing them, you are grabbing them. Then you are putting on shoes, perhaps putting on a coat, depending on the weather. And finally, the ultimate action that ends the morning routine.
Leaving the house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the moment you step through that front door, the entire vocabulary of the day changes.
We leave the private sphere of the house and enter the public sphere of the workday or the school day.
And the bridge between those two worlds is the commute.
Right, the commute.
The commute is fascinating because it dictates so much of our daily energy. How you travel really matters.
For sure. If you take the bus, you are relying on that dilexical action verb again.
Good catch, yes. Or if you drive, you are actively navigating, hopefully avoiding the dreaded traffic jams.
Oh, nobody likes those.
No. Or if you live in a dense, walkable city, you might simply walk.
Once you arrive, wherever it is you're going, the actions become incredibly task-oriented. Turning on the computer, checking emails.
Or if you work in retail, it is opening the shop and turning on the cash register.
Right, or if you are a teacher, it is preparing lessons and writing on the whiteboard.
And this professional environment introduces a crucial noun that distinguishes our work lives from our personal lives. Colleagues.
Colleagues. It's a very specific boundary word, isn't it?
It really is.
We rarely call the people we work with our work friends, unless we are actually extremely close to them. We use colleagues to create this slightly formal psychological distance.
Precisely. They are the people who share your professional environment, but not necessarily your personal life. It defines relationships based on shared tasks rather than shared affection.
And to manage all those shared tasks with your colleagues, you rely on a to-do list.
The lifesaver of the office.
Truly. So a to-do list is basically a map for your workday. It keeps you focused so you don't get lost in the middle of all your emails and meetings.
That's a perfect analogy. It organizes the chaos. And you generally work through that list, checking things off until you reach the universal pause button of the day.
Lunchtime.
Lunchtime. It is remarkable how consistently the sources point to 1:00 p.m. as the anchor point for this meal across various cultures.
It is the great dividing line of the day. And linguistically, you have a couple of options to describe it. You might bring a packed lunch from home, a sandwich, a salad, or leftover rice.
Or you might prefer going out to eat, leaving the office entirely to buy a hot meal at a cafe or the cafeteria.
And the choice between a packed lunch and going out to eat is often like a balance of economics and psychology.
Definitely. A packed lunch saves money, but going out provides a necessary change of scenery. It gets you away from your desk.
But regardless of what you eat, the aftermath of lunch introduces a completely new physical state, and the vocabulary we use to describe it is wonderfully descriptive.
We enter the afternoon shift.
And we hit the energy slump.
The afternoon slump is a physiological reality. Your body is directing energy to digest your food, and your brain suddenly just feels heavy.
The word the sources highlight here is sluggish. It is such a visceral adjective.
It really is. You literally feel like a slug. Every movement is slow, deliberate, and requires maximum effort.
Your brain feels wrapped in cotton.
Yes.
So how does the English language tell us to fight this sluggishness?
By stepping away, we take short breaks, and the verbs here borrow heavily from technology and military strategy.
Oh, that's interesting. Like what?
We try to recharge our batteries, maybe by taking a quick walk or getting a coffee, or we regroup.
Regroup, like an army.
Exactly. It's a term that means gathering your scattered thoughts and organizing them, much like an army regrouping before a final push.
I love that comparison because the vocabulary for the end of the workday gets surprisingly aggressive.
Mm.
Once you have recharged and regrouped, the goal is to knock out your final task.
Knockout is a brilliant phrasal verb. It borrows directly from a boxing match.
You aren't just calmly finishing your work, you are fighting against your own fatigue.
Right, delivering a final blow to your projects or your classes so you can be done with them. It implies efficiency and force.
So you knock out the work, the bell rings, and the professional day is over, which creates another massive pivot in our vocabulary.
The exhaustion of that afternoon slump and the aggressive push to finish work abruptly transforms into the psychological relief of the evening.
We move away from words demanding productivity, focus, and output, and we transition entirely into a vocabulary of relaxation, recovery, and personal maintenance.
And that transition is marked by a very specific ritual upon arriving home. The universal sigh of relief the moment you walk through the door is almost always accompanied by changing clothes.
Oh, absolutely. Taking off the rigid work uniform, the uncomfortable shoes, or the stiff jeans, and putting on soft pants or a loose t-shirt.
It is a physical action that serves as a psychological trigger. Changing your clothes sends a signal to your nervous system that the professional demands are over.
You are shedding the public persona and stepping back into the private self.
Exactly. And once that comfortable clothing is on, we face the evening downtime.
And English makes a very clear distinction between two types of recovery here. There is actively relaxing, and then there is crashing on the sofa.
Actively relaxing implies agency. You are intentionally choosing an activity that brings you joy or engages your mind in a low-stress way.
Like going for a walk, hitting the gym, playing video games online, or reading a book.
Right. You are doing something, but crashing on the sofa is entirely passive.
I find the imagery of that phrase so striking. We use a word normally reserved for a car accident or a catastrophic computer failure to describe sitting down.
It's so true. Crashing implies a total systemic shutdown.
You don't have the mental or physical bandwidth to do anything but exist and maybe stare at a documentary on the television.
It perfectly captures the modern reality of exhaustion. You aren't choosing to sit. Gravity and fatigue are making the choice for you.
But eventually, even if you crash, hunger intervenes. You have to eat dinner.
You do. And the standard phrase is to cook dinner, which implies a structured meal like pasta, soup, or chicken.
But wait, I feel like this vocabulary only works if you live like a clockwork robot.
What do you mean?
Well, what if my evening routine changes all the time? What if my life isn't that organized? Like, what if I am too exhausted to cook, or I just skip dinner entirely? How do I describe that without sounding confused?
That's a great question. English absolutely has a way to handle the chaos of an irregular routine, and this is where we rely on a specific set of linguistic tools called adverbs of frequency.
Adverbs of frequency, like what?
Words like usually, sometimes, rarely, and never. These words act like flexibility dials in your sentences. They allow you to communicate a pattern without locking yourself into an absolute truth.
Oh, I see. So you don't have to lie and say, I cook dinner every night if you don't.
Right. You can adjust the dial and say, I usually cook dinner, but sometimes I'm too tired.
That adds so much nuance.
It does. And if your schedule lacks a rigid pattern, the sources offer a fantastic colloquial phrase. You can say your habits are all over the place.
All over the place. It means things are scattered and unpredictable.
Exactly. And when things are all over the place, your dinner vocabulary expands. You might skip meals entirely because you were working late.
Or if you have zero energy, you might order a takeaway, having food delivered straight to your door.
Or, to preempt that exhaustion, you might cook a big batch of food over the weekend.
Oh, batch cooking.
Yeah, making a massive pot of soup and freezing it so you have immediate meals ready for the rest of the week. It is a very practical, modern survival strategy.
But whether you cook a feast, heat up a batch of soup, or order a takeaway, there is one final chore that lurks at the end of the evening.
The necessary evil.
Washing the dishes.
It is unavoidable. You wash the plates, you clean the sink, and you officially close the kitchen.
And the closing of the kitchen is the biological cue that the day is truly ending. Which brings us to the final phase of our timeline, bedtime.
The best time.
We move from the active evening to a crucial transition period.
The operative concept here is winding down, or alternatively, unwinding.
I've always loved that metaphor. It compares the human mind to a mechanical clock or a tightly wound toy.
Exactly. All day long, the stress and the tasks wind the spring tighter and tighter.
And by the evening, you have to deliberately let that tension release or the mechanism will break.
That is precisely the imagery. You are actively de-stressing. And the physical routine of winding down is essentially the morning routine in reverse.
We return to the bathroom.
Brushing teeth, washing the face to remove the day's dirt, and critically, setting the alarm for the next morning.
Preparing the cycle to repeat. But before sleep actually claims us, the sources highlight a massive modern debate regarding pre-sleep activities.
Ah, yes. What do you do when you're lying in bed waiting for your brain to shut off?
The divide is stark here. On one hand, you have the habit of looking at a phone in bed, scrolling through short videos, or checking social media.
But scientifically, the blue light emitted by screens is terrible for sleep hygiene. It tricks your brain into believing it is still daytime, completely suppressing melatonin.
It prevents the mechanism from unwinding. The alternative, according to the sources, is engaging in analog activities.
Reading a real book, specifically emphasizing physical paper or drinking herbal tea to naturally calm the nervous system without caffeine.
The ultimate goal of all this winding down is to achieve a specific target.
Right, most experts suggest aiming for 7 or 8 hours of sleep, ensuring that when the alarm rings, you feel well rested.
But achieving that goal depends heavily on your innate biological rhythm, which introduces two fantastic idioms used to describe human energy patterns. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
This is a huge divide in how people operate. A morning person is someone whose internal clock thrives in the early hours. They naturally wake up around dawn, they feel energized by the quiet, and they prefer to tackle their hardest tasks immediately.
But the night owl operates on a completely different frequency. Much like the bird they are named after, they come alive when the sun goes down.
Night owls prefer to stay up late, often pushing well past midnight. They find their peak focus and creativity when the rest of the world is asleep.
The challenge, of course, is that society is largely built for morning people.
Right. If a night owl has a traditional 9-to-5 job, they inevitably struggle to get moving in the morning.
They fight the snooze button, they feel sluggish for hours.
And they might even rely on taking a nap in the afternoon to compensate for the sleep deficit.
It is a constant negotiation with your own energy levels from the moment you get up to the moment you finally crash.
And with that crash, we have reached the end of the timeline.
The house is quiet, the lights are out, and the daily cycle is complete.
We have mapped out the entire architecture of a day.
Let's review what we've uncovered. We didn't just list words today. We explored the toolkit you use to build your reality in English.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We looked at the mechanical shift from waking up to getting up. We examined dilexical verbs like taking a shower, the boundary-setting nature of colleagues, and the aggressive phrasing of knocking out tasks.
We contrasted the active relief of relaxing with the total system failure of crashing on the sofa. And we explored how adverbs of frequency allow you to describe a chaotic, irregular schedule.
The key to mastering this vocabulary is recognizing that you already live these words every single day. The actions are already there. You are simply attaching new labels to them.
I highly encourage you to practice this out loud. Stand in front of a mirror tomorrow morning and try to narrate your own routine as you do it. Use the adverbs we discussed to turn rigid statements into flexible, accurate descriptions of your actual life.
Narrate your life as it happens. That is how the language becomes second nature. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to consider on your own.
Okay, lay it on us.
We just spent a lot of time analyzing the mechanics of how we describe our days. But think about the actual content of your routine.
Right.
If a complete stranger couldn't speak your language, but could only sit silently and watch the daily routine you just mapped out, what would they assume is the single most important thing in your life?
Wow, that is a revealing question. It forces you to look at your verbs not just as language, but as priorities.
Exactly, because what you do every day is who you become. Keep building your vocabulary, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.